Class, and thank you for watching. Now remember, before you continue watching the rest of the video, you should have completed working on these problems and are doing just checking that your solutions are correct. Again, that's my disclaimer here, that you actually have these problems done. Now let's go over the assignment solving equations and check that you have the answers correct. So for the first equation, you need to simplify by combining these two terms here before you start using inverse operation. So I'll bring down the 7x and adding 1 and 4, that's equals to 5. And that's going to equal down to 19. So using inverse operations, what we would have to do here is subtract 5 from both sides of the equation. And 7x is going to equal to 14. Now, dividing both sides of the equation by 7, x is going to equal to 2. Now, similar situation number 2, we want to combine like terms to simplify. So here we are going to combine these two terms. For this example here, the coefficient in front of the n is 1. So adding 1 with 3 again is going to be 4. So we have now a negative 7. You know what? Let me write the term with the n first. So we're going to write 4n this time, bring down the minus 7 and equal it to negative 15. Now, we are going to add 7 inverse operation. We add 7 to both sides of the equation. And 4n is going to equal to negative 8. We're going to divide by 4. And n is equal to negative 2. Number 3, we see again that we have another set of like terms, these two terms here. So that's going to equal to negative 5x. We're going to bring down the constant of 4, and it's going to equal to 4. Now, many people had questions about this particular problem during class. So I explained it to some of y'all in class, those of y'all that asked. And the question was, well, since 4 minus 4 is equal to 0, what do we do here? Well, we do the exact same thing as we've done before. We're going to figure out the value of x. So we're going to divide by negative 5. And as you can clearly see, the value of x has to equal to 0. Now for problem number 4, the like terms on this example are these two right here. So we're going to combine those, and that's going to equal to 9r. We bring down the constant of 1, and that's going to equal to negative 8. We are going to subtract 1 from both sides, and 9r is going to equal to negative 9. We then divide by negative 1. We divide by 9. Sorry about that. We divide by 9. And r is going to equal to negative 1. I was thinking about the answer. R is equal to negative 1. Now for this example here, there are no like terms. As you see, we have this. So what we need to do is that we're going to multiply in order to simplify. This again indicates multiplication. So everything inside this parentheses needs to be multiplied by 5. So we have negative 265 multiplying 5 with 8, that's equal to 40b. We're going to multiply 5 times 5, that's equal to minus 25. Now, using the inverse operation, what we need to do here first is add 25 to both sides. So negative 265 plus 25 is equal to negative 240. We now divide by 40. And b is equal to negative 6. For number 7, again, we are distributing. So we end up with negative 7x minus 42 is equal to negative 91. We're going to add 42 to both sides. just write this neater. 42. So negative 7x is equal to negative 41 plus 42. So negative 41 plus 42. Well, that's equal to 49. We're going to divide by negative 7, and the value of x is negative 7. Now, on the back of the page, we start by, again, another example of distributing. So we need to distribute these two terms. So when we bring down the negative 340, this is going to equal to negative 40a minus 20, since we're multiplying by negative 5. Adding a negative 20 is the same thing as subtracting 20. So technically, when I multiply, I bring down the plus sign, and when I multiply the negative 5 and the positive 4, that's equal to negative 20. Well, adding negative 20, that's really the same thing as simply subtracting by 20. So I'm just going to write like this instead. Now, using inverse operation, we would first have to start by adding 20 to both sides. So negative 240 plus 20, that's equal to negative 320. We're going to then divide by negative 40a since we're multiplying. And the value of a is equal to positive 8. Now our next example, number 8, another example we have to distribute first. So we would multiply 5 with 6, so that's going to equal to negative 30b plus 5 is equal to negative 205. Now, again, well, let me start over. The reason that that's equal to negative 30b, well, a positive times a negative times a positive is negative. Now, if I bring down the minus sign, okay, and I multiply the 5 with the 1, well, 5 times 1 is 5. But a negative 5 times a positive 1, that's equal to negative 5. So I'm subtracting, as you see right here, I am subtracting a negative 5. Well, subtracting a negative 5, again, these two negatives basically mean I'm adding. So instead of writing as minus negative 5, which can be confusing, I'm just going to simply write this as positive 5. Another way of thinking about this is that when you distribute inside this parentheses, you can think of this and treat this number as if it was a negative 1. So this negative 5 times this negative 1 is equal to a positive 5. So we add 5. Equal it to negative 205. I can then subtract 5 from both sides. Negative 30b, negative 30b, I'm sorry, is going to equal to negative 210. Then divided by negative 30, the value of b is equal to positive 7. Now for the last couple of examples, you see here now that we are now, last 6 examples, we see that we now have variables on both sides. So what we need to do is get rid of the variable that is on the right side. So because we're subtracting, so this one right here, and because we're subtracting that term, and the way we're going to get rid of it is by adding it. So we're going to add 3n to both sides. Now in this example, there's two places I could put it. I could put it under the first term, I could put it under the second term. It really doesn't matter because they both have n's. But that's always the first thing we want to do. We want to get rid of the n that is on this side over here before we can start even simplifying or do anything else. So that way these two operations cancel each other out, and we can bring down the 4n. Again, do this operation, negative 3n plus 3, and that's equal to 0. So we could not have to write that down, and bring down the negative 16. We divide by 4, since there's no inverse, the only inverse operation is to divide, and we get that the value of n is equal to negative 4. Here, again, the same thing. We have, again, our variable term on the right side and on the left side right here. So I'm going to get rid of this one because, again, it's a plus. We're going to get rid of it by subtracting it from this side. And of course, we do it to the other side as well. So these two terms, again, cancel each other. Or these two operations cancel each other out. Adding and subtracting 7k cancel each other out. And we bring down the 2. This is 1, positive 1. So positive 1k is equal to 7. Now using inverse operation, I will subtract 2 from both sides, and 1k is equal to 5. Dividing by 1, and I get that the value of k is equal to 5. Now here we're going to do the same thing, or we have a variable term on the right. So again, as you clearly see, we have a plus, so we're adding that 7k. So like on the previous example, we're going to subtract it. We're going to bring down this 8, perform this operation, positive 8 minus 7, that's equal to positive 1k, and that's equal to 11. We now subtract the constants. Since there is a plus sign in front of it, an assumed plus sign, that means we're going to subtract it from both sides. So that means these two operations of adding and subtracting a cancel each other out, and 1k is equal to 4. I'm sorry, 3, not 4, it's equal to 3. 11 minus 8 is equal to 3. So now we divide again by 1, and k is equal to 3. Now here, again, because we have a variable, here's my equal sign. Because we have a variable on the right side of the equation, I'm going to get rid of that one first. I'm going to subtract that one. And again, here there's two places I could put the n. I could put it under this one because it says an n, or in that one. All right, it doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to put it on the second. I'll put it on the second one. So minus 7n is not a k. I got used to the k. So 7n. Okay. And I'm going to bring this term down, so negative 3n. I am going to perform the operation with these two, so positive 3 minus 2, that's equal to positive 1. Bring down the negative 15, and bring down the negative 5. Now, because I don't have any variables on the left side, again, I can now simplify by combining these two. These two have the same variable. So I can combine those, and 3 plus 1, that's equal to negative 3 plus 1, that's equal to negative 2n. Minus 15 is equal to negative 5. I add the 15 to both sides, and negative 2n is equal to positive 10. Negative 5 plus 15 is 10. Then again, the last step is to divide by the coefficient. So I'm going to divide by negative 2, and n is equal to negative 5. Here, again, we still have variables on both sides. So on this example, we want to get rid of this one right here. Now recall that the coefficient to this one is 1. There's a 1 in front of that one, and the same thing right there. Since there's no number, that's assumed to be a 1. Now, because it's a positive, that means it's being added. So we're adding 1n. So in order to get rid of it, we're going to subtract it from both sides. So that way these two operations cancel each other out, and we end up bringing down the 13, and we could perform this operation. Negative 1 minus 1, that's equal to negative 2n. Bring down the 3. Now, using inverse operation, I have to get rid of this constant right there. Again, because there is no sign, again, that's assumed that it's being added to this side right here. So inverse operation would imply that we would have to subtract it. So these two operations cancel each other out. We bring down the negative 2n, and it's going to equal to negative 10. Now the operation that cancels out multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide by negative 2. And that way these two operations of multiplying and dividing, those two things cancel each other out, and we're left with n, and negative 10 divided by negative 2, that's equal to 5. And our last one is this one right here. Here, again, we have variables that are on both sides of the equation. So we want to get rid of the one that's on this side right there. So again, because of the plus sign, we're going to subtract it from both sides. Now, this has two places to put the n under. We could put it and subtract it from -3 or subtract it from 6. I'm going to subtract it from the 6. It really won't make much of a difference, but because it's 6, it's easier to do the math like that. All right, and this is what we have left. I'm going to bring down the -3x, perform this operation, and 6x minus 2x, that's equal to 4x. And over here, I'm going to bring down the 12, bring down the 2. These two operations cancel each other out. Adding and subtracting 2x cancels each other out. And subtract and bring down the -7. All I do now is just simply combine terms. These two terms could be combined, which is equal to positive 1x. And these three terms are alike, so I can combine all of those. And this is equal to 7. 12 plus 2, that's equal to 14. And 14 minus 7 is equal to 7. So then I divide by 1, and the value of x is 7. All right, and there you go. Hopefully you got these correct. Whatever you didn't get it correct again, please just change your answer. And like usual, again, I hope you did, in fact, do them first. Again, do not just copy the answers from this. The idea here is for you to work out the problems. Again, my disclaimer is to work out the problems and then just use this as a reference to checking your work, making sure you're doing it correct and you didn't make any careless mistakes, okay? But well, thank you again for watching and have a good day.